When you see the whole world shaking and you feel your heart is breaking, take my hand, no hesitating. When you're just so tired of trying, all alone you feel like hiding. Together we'll keep fighting. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains too high we can climb it. Feel it, we're taking the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Can you see the sun is shining like a new hope? Feel it rising, coming over the horizon. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains too high we can climb it. Feel this, we're taking the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. There's no stopping.
Good evening. Okay. It's June 18th, Saturday. Beautiful day. Nice sunny skies, not too hot the way it has been. And tomorrow is Father's Day. So I want to wish all the fathers out there a most wonderful and happy and loving Father's Day. And tomorrow, and actually Monday, because Juneteenth fell on a Sunday, is the celebration of Juneteenth. And I hope everybody partakes in some sort of ceremony remembrance. We're going to end with a little tribute to Juneteenth, which maybe I shouldn't say tribute, but a remembrance of it and the way we should get to act with each other. Okay? But we have a lot to talk about because a lot has gone on this week, especially with the real estate market, with our economy. So there's lots to talk about. So let's do a little preview and go right into the work. Okay, so I'm back. So one of the big events this week was that the Federal Reserve raised its Fed funds rate by 0.75%, which is pretty big. Because usually they go a quarter of a point, maybe a half point, but 3/4 of a point is a lot. And the reason why they are trying to do that is to put the brakes on inflation. All right. So hopefully the consumer will not spend as much. Corporations won't try to, it does put a hold on the economy. It'll keep them from borrowing money to expand their businesses, maybe putting on more staff, maybe buying more inventory, maybe adding on to a factory. It kind of puts the brakes on everything. I mean, they could still do it, but they're going to pay a higher rate. So hopefully this puts a halt on our inflation that's up pretty high. Okay, it's up over 8%, and that's also pretty high. So there's a lot of things going on that will affect the economy. We have inflation, which includes our very high gas prices, high grocery prices, home prices, rents, and hopefully the increase in the Federal Reserve rate, which then affects the mortgage industry. All right, the federal funds rate, the change in that does not directly change the mortgage rate, but it's sort of like a domino effect. And we could spend a podcast on just how that works. But I just want to stay on this one issue today about whether or not we're heading to a housing crisis. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, is that it's going to hurt a lot of home buyers because a lot of home buyers were getting knocked out of the market as prices of homes went up, right? So a house they looked at a year ago maybe was $200,000, but now it's around $220,000, $230,000. And it's very possible that they were just approved by their mortgage lender for $200,000. So when that increase has gone up, they were knocked out of the market for that house, and they have to start looking at smaller homes. Well, with the increase of the mortgage rate, which really has gone up over 2 points within a year, I mean, that's another big movement. People who were, if they were also, and they said, okay, now I got an increase in pay, and I could now afford that house that's $220,000 that a year ago was $200,000, but now with a higher mortgage rate, okay, and I have a higher monthly payment, now I'm knocked out of the eligibility for that home. So there's going to be a lot of not happy people, okay, especially on the home buying side. The sellers, they're still selling their homes pretty much a lot higher than they would have sold it going back, to 2020, 2021. And even if it falls a little bit, they're still above the game, okay? But I think there's going to be a shift in the market. I really believe. I mean, as a realtor, okay, and we're also always given to give out positive information. Like even when the post I put on my blog, which is information I'm getting from other sources, and they always have kind of like a positive swing to it. And I mean, that's good, but I'd rather be, truthful. And maybe I shouldn't say truthful, but really show the options that are involved. Okay. And there are some ways with the increasing mortgage rates, that you may be able to find some answers to, or some ways to deal with it. But we're going to have a lot of people drop out. And especially remember when, and I've brought this up before in many of my podcasts, when rates were ridiculously low. All right, you're going to have people in the market, right? In the market, here you have your whole, trying to do like a circle here. You're all your buyers out there. And then there are people who said, well, my whole house is okay, but if I could get a mortgage at 3% or 2.875, I'm going to buy a house, okay? That's a great price, I'm going to move on. But what's happened over the last 6 months is that as the rates have gone up, those buyers have dropped out. So you're going to have a smaller pool or a smaller circle of buyers, which is going to be great for the buyers, okay? Because you're going to have less competition. You'll still have some, because as you're going to see with some of the graphs I'm showing, we're still above pre-pandemic levels, but it's not going to be as crazy as it was about a year ago. All right. So those people who said, well, I'm not going to buy now. I'll just, with money I have, I'll renovate my home. I'll do what I can with what I have. So the ones that are in the market right now are the ones that have to buy. And it could be many reasons. They're on a job transfer. I learned from that with one of my Facebook friends. They have to buy something right now. They're going from Virginia to another state, and they have to buy something. Or if you're on in the military, you're being transferred, and you have to buy somewhere else, or you just don't want to pay rent anymore, and you find out even with the increase with the mortgage rates, my mortgage payment will still be less than my rent payment because the rent payments are outrageous. They really are. And as a side note, I don't like these corporations buying up all these single-family homes that were supposed to be purchased as owner-occupied, and it's being bought up by these large corporations to rent out. And I personally don't like that. I really don't, because it's taking the home ownership away from a lot of people. And corporations have of course, big cash positions, so they could beat out other buyers because they're going to come in and buy with cash, and they could close very quickly, and they might be going a little bit above the asking price, but they know the money that they will make in return with the rents. That's going to, whatever they paid extra for, they'll recoup that. And I kind of think, I'm going to have a lot of people going to be saying no, but they want less government. But I think there should be some sort of government control on that. I think earlier, when I did a lot of the posting, when Biden became president, he was going to make it more, well, not difficult, but they would, corporations who had a lot of properties, they would have to pay a higher tax. So it would keep them from buying so many investment properties. If that's a way to solve the problem, but some sort of public policy to keep homes available for owner occupants, people who really want home ownership. And they are buying a lot in states and cities where there's a migration. People who are moving from maybe large cities up north, where the price of living is higher and taxes is higher, and these corporations said, okay, we'll go to some of these southern cities, or they'll go to the Midwest, pay less taxes, and of course they need the personnel. So people go there and move, and they want to buy homes, but they're being sucked up by these corporations. And I don't think that's a good thing. They should be allowed to buy a certain amount, but they're taking away a lot from the general public. Of course, I'm going to believe that as a realtor, that people we value home ownership, and we want people to buy if they're able to. Okay, so let's get my first graph up here. Okay, and we're going to share. And we're going to share the screen. And okay, and here we go. And this should do it. And let me get this up here. And okay, I'm going to put this on pause. Okay, I should be back. Yeah, I'm recording. Okay. So is the housing market correcting? So let's jump down right where I highlighted the area. Record low mortgage rates and millennials reaching peak home buying years led to an influx of buyer demand. This is going now dealing with the last 2 years. At the same time, there weren't enough homes available to purchase thanks to many years of underbuilding and sellers who held off on listing their homes due to the health crisis. Again, the topic I've talked about so much. A lot of people did not list their homes from 2019 to the end of 2021 because of fears of people walking through their homes, potential buyers, and spreading the coronavirus. So this combination led to a record high demand and record low supply. And that wasn't going to be sustainable for the long term. The latest data shows early signs of a shift back to the market pace seen in the years leading up to the pandemic. So this article is saying it's not a crash, no correction, but we're heading to a new direction. That's a nice way to put it. We're heading to a new direction. All right. Now, what they do, which I kind of like, I'm going to use the charts here. So we're seeing the showing skyrocket the last 2 years. Okay, so the gray area is showing your pre-pandemic demand. Then we have the years of the pandemic, and we see how it built up. Here we're going into February and March and April of 2021, and there's so many homes being shown. Okay, then it kind of like dropped off a little bit towards the end of the year. Then January, February, March, we seem to have a rise, but now it's heading back down. Still way above your pre-pandemic demand when the market was kind of normal, but it seems to be going down a little bit here. So it's saying it's just a turning point that's moving back to a more pre-pandemic levels. So then they talk about existing home sales then and now. All right. So again, kind of like in the height of the pandemic, we have 6.1 million homes being sold. As of April of 2022, we see a drop to where it was in 2020, but still above the pre-pandemic area. All right. So they're saying it's in the direction. I think it's heading back to pre-pandemic area, but the question is whether or not it's going to get worse. And it all depends on, it really depends on if we go into a deep recession. Now, I'm going to share, let's see if this works here. I have a couple of articles here. Okay, and do we see this up here? Let's see. Are we showing? Okay. I kind of like the way my bubbles up here within there is the housing market correcting. All right, the Fed plans to reset the housing market, raising the likelihood of falling home prices. So I kept this up here on the screen. This is actually the article. I didn't send it to a PDF file. All right. So basically, Powell, okay, the head of the Federal Reserve, is saying home buyers need a bit of a reset. Fed Chair Jerome Powell addressed reporters on Wednesday. We saw home prices moving up very, very strongly for the last couple of years. So that changes now, and rates have moved up. We are all aware that mortgage rates have moved up a lot, and you see a changing housing market. We are watching to see what will happen. So even the chair doesn't know exactly, because we have so many factors involved. We have the strong inflation. We have a possible recession looming over us. So no one really knows the answer. It's a very tight market. So prices might keep going up for a while, even in a world where rates are up. So it's a complicated situation, and we watch it very carefully. I'd say if you're a home buyer, somebody or a young person looking to buy a home, you need a bit of a reset. We need to get back to a place where supply and demand are back together, and where inflation is down low again, and mortgage rates are low again. So what he's also saying that he's hoping that the home prices possibly, all right, because again, he's saying he doesn't know, will fall. And there's a fall, and he's saying as we get a control on inflation, he also explicitly said he'd like to see mortgage rates fall as well. Now, whether or not that will happen, we don't know. Okay? But the point of this is that we're at this turning point now with the market where we know there's going to be less competition with buyers. But the real question is with home prices, will we see a lot of home prices just begin to go down? And again, what I see not all home prices going down. I see home prices going down where the house is not move-in ready. And now the buyers are looking at very well. I gotta pull up that carpet. I gotta repaint. I'm not going to take it as is. So they have to come down on price, or they'll make these repairs. So I think we're going to reach that point where we weren't for the last 2 years. Basically, buyers went and they did a home inspection. In the very beginning, they didn't take a home inspection at all, but that's very dangerous. But they did the home inspection for informational purposes only, just to find out if there's a major problem with the house. But if it was okay, I mean, if most other things were cosmetic, they'll go in and they'll fix it. But I think that will change. I think now, with those homes that need some work, those prices will fall. If your home is like turnkey ready, all right, the only thing is the new buyer has to do is put a key in and open it up, and they move all the stuff and they're ready. Those prices could stay the same and maybe still go up a little bit, but not for all homes. I really believe that, and I think that's a pretty strong prediction to make. Now, I just want to show one more. Let's see. I'm trying this a different way, so I'm, okay. Oh, maybe I won't be able to. Let's see. Which one is here? Okay. I think what I have to do. All right, I'm going to have trouble putting up this other one. Okay, I apologize on that. I apologize. Let's just close all of this out. The other article that I was going to show was how this could affect new home buyers. And maybe I'll just do a summary. Again, when you speak to your loan officer, ask them, what mortgage product will help you the best. And they have different products, okay? They might have products with where they could work out your private mortgage insurance if you put down more money. There could be programs for first-time home buyers where you're actually financing your down payment, and if your credit is really good, you could finance your closing costs if you can't get your seller to pay for it. So you have to speak to your loan officers what programs they have, if they have any grant programs, and let's go over what products you have and what's the scenario for each. So what's my mortgage payment with a Fannie Mae mortgage? What's my mortgage payment for FHA? Of course, if you're VA, you're probably the best with that because you don't have any private mortgage insurance. But your loan officer will make the best decision on that. But especially if they have any grants programs, and they usually are for first-time home buyers. And if you're in certain industries or business, I should say, but if you're a firefighter or a police officer or a teacher, you'll get maybe up to $7,500. And if you're in the military and if you're not using a VA loan, you might get $10,000. So there's different ways to go about it. You have to speak to your loan officer for the details that they have. I could tell my buyers what's out there, but to see what you're eligible for or what's the best product for you, you have to speak to a loan officer. And if you don't have one, I would put you with one. Okay. The other thing with first-time home buyers, if you need more money now for a down payment, you could always get, but again, it's just depending on the product. You could get a gift letter, meaning that a parent, an aunt or uncle will gift you money. So let's say you need $5,000 to help you with your down payment. And they write a letter that it's a gift and that you don't have to pay it back. And that's the big difference. Because that $5,000 should not be then added to your debt. Because what happens if that so you might be knocked out again of purchasing the home because the more debt you pay out, the smaller mortgage payment you could afford. So that's why it's so important that it's a gift letter saying that you do not have to pay it back. Now, you could pay it back, but the person who is giving you the gift can't say, well, you owe me $5,000, now I'm going to take you to court. With that letter, it will say that's a gift and they can't take you to court for that money. Okay? Okay, so do I think the market is correcting? I don't know. I don't know what correction it really means. If correction means to go back to pre-pandemic levels, then yes. But again, if we go into a deep recession and people lose their jobs, we're going to see more foreclosures on the market, or people selling their homes and maybe downsizing. So there's a lot of unknowns out there, okay? The Fed is saying that. They don't know exactly what's going to happen. President Joe Biden is not so sure we're going to go into recession. We don't know. As I talked about before in the earlier podcast, the economy or economics is very different from chemistry. If you take two elements together and you mix it, there might be a certain reaction. But with the economy, and it's especially the last few years, has been so different. Okay, you would think that we would have less people buying homes within the last 2 years, but a lot of people bought homes. So you have a couple of factors and you mix it in together, but you don't always get the same result. And that's what's happening now. We got to see what happens. The best thing if you're looking to buy, pay down as much as your debt, save as much money as you can. If needed, speak to family members if you may have to get a gift from them, and speak to your loan officers. See what programs they have out there and what grants they have out there. Now, also, if you go to my blog, Real Estate with Mr. G .blog, I have the Buying a Home. This just came out last week, the summer edition for buying a home, and information to help you along the path. And then after you read it, then you call me to help you buy a home. And then we also have the seller spread, things to consider when selling your house. Again, there is no cost to you for downloading it. It's free. I'll show you. That's where you go to Real Estate with Mr. G .blog, resource and materials. Okay. And that's very helpful. And then we'll show a little video which says, maybe this is not a recession doesn't always mean a housing crisis. So let's take a look at that. All right, so a couple of things to keep in mind over there. It doesn't have to mean that we're going into a housing crisis. And again, we're at this pivotal point. We have to see what happens. My twist on it is how deep we go into a recession. That's really the determining factor, whether or not there'll be a housing crisis. Okay? All right, so tomorrow is Juneteenth. I hope everybody celebrates it or has some sort of remembrance of it, some sort of dedication. I just want to, and I did this actually last year as well. When it first became, I think last year became a national holiday, and I did this. And I always end my podcast with "Let There Be Peace on Earth." It's a sort of a New Orleans jazz version, but I found a beautiful choir, Carl's Choir, singing it. And my belief, if you know, we all consider ourselves brothers and sisters, we will have peace on earth. Okay, so be kind to each other. Remember, the greatest power we have is the love, and the greatest gift each other. And I'll see you next week.